Good evening, and welcome to another World of Warships video by Captain Darkwing Glacier. In this video, we will be taking a look at the newly released Tier VIII Premium British Battleship, HMS Vanguard. But at this time, I would also like to mention that I am now a member of the Naval Alliance, a group of World of Warships players and YouTubers with similar goals, namely to provide the World of Warships community with gameplay tips, ship reviews, tactics, and maybe some exciting battles too. We also want to encourage a friendly, helpful, and positive environment for the other World of Warships players out there. Currently, the Naval Alliance consists of 5 members, namely myself, Darkwing Glacier, Captain Blackjack Honor, An Eiler Horum, Dutch Delights NL, and Midshipman Slack. Links to all of their YouTube channels is in the description below, and I encourage you to check them all out. They're really cool channels. Okay, so back to the topic of this video. HMS Vanguard, pennant number 23, has a pretty ironic name. It was the last battleship built by the Royal Navy, and yet its name means the unit or ship that leads the fleet. In the late 1930s, the Royal Navy was concerned that they would not have enough battleships to compete with those of the Kriegsmarine and the Imperial Japanese Navy. So, construction began on the Lion-class battleships. The problem was the time needed to build the many triple 16-inch gun turrets that the Lion class needed was excessive, and the first ship of the class would not be completed until at least 1943. However, the Royal Navy did have many extra 15-inch guns lying around, and modifying the design of the Lion class would allow a battleship to be built with 8 15-inch guns much faster than the Lion class ships would. With this new design and using the spare guns, the battleship that would become HMS Vanguard was laid down on October 2nd, 1941. With Japan's declaration of war against the British Empire in December, the race was on to complete the Vanguard before the original estimate of 1943. HMS Vanguard was then commissioned on May 2nd, 1946, 7 months after the war was over. By this time, the United Kingdom was deeply in debt, and plans for future battleships, such as the Conqueror class, had to be scrapped. HMS Vanguard would be the last battleship built for the Royal Navy. So let's take a look at the HMS Vanguard as she appears in the game. The two most appropriate ships to compare her to are the Tier VIII Tech Tree battleship for the British, the HMS Monarch, and the Tech Tree Tier IX battleship, the HMS Lion, of which the Vanguard is a modification of. So let's take a look at the range values first. Now, one thing I want to say is that for all of these ships, all the values are assuming that you have upgraded the ship fully with modules and hulls and so forth. So the Monarch comes out at 18.1 kilometers, Vanguard at 20, which is significantly better, and the Lion at 20.7 kilometers. So the Vanguard does very well for its tier, at least compared to the Tech Tree version. So that's not so bad. For Sigma values, both Monarch and Lion have Sigma values of 1.8, whereas the Vanguard has 2.0. These are the same guns as the HMS Warspite. They are very accurate, and this is, or I should say, very precise. For reloads, the HMS Monarch comes out at 25 seconds, so it is the fastest reloading of all of these ships. The Vanguard comes out at 28 seconds, and the Lion at 30 seconds. If you do get the module, the reload module, that drops down to 26.4 seconds. So with that taken into account, the Vanguard actually has the worst reload out of all 3 ships, but not by much. So the turret rotation of each ship is essentially the same, 45 seconds for a 180-degree turn for all of the ships. However, if the Lion does get the reload module, its rotation speed slows down to then 51.7 seconds to go 180 degrees. So there is a trade-off in getting the reload module. For fire chance for high explosive, the Monarch is at 35%. The Vanguard is slightly worse, probably so small you won't even notice, at 34%. And the Lion has a massive increase, as it and the Conqueror both do. So the Lion tops out at 46%. For their fully upgraded hit points, the Monarch tops out at 60,500. The Lion has 67,900, which is not a big jump from Tier 8 to Tier 9, but the Vanguard beats them both at 71,700, which is pretty good. That's even better than some Tier 9 battleships other than the Lion. For torpedo protection, for all three ships, it's not that great. Monarch has 22%, Vanguard is better at 25%, and it ties the Lion, which also has 25%. For speed, the Vanguard turns out to be the fastest British battleship in the game at 30 knots. This is somewhat slow compared to some of the other ships, but it also is better than some of the American ones. For example, the Montana only has a 27 knot speed, but it will be outrun by something like the Iowa or Missouri, which can get up to 33 knots. So 30 knots for the Vanguard, the Monarch's only at 28, and the Lion fully upgraded is 29.5. Now, here's a big difference. The rudder shift. For the Monarch, it's 15 seconds. For the Lion, it's 15.8 seconds, so, pretty close. But the Vanguard is at 9.7. This thing maneuvers almost like a cruiser. In many respects, it's like the Warspite. I kind of view this ship as a Tier 8 Warspite. It does have the same guns, so that sometimes they can feel weak when firing against Tier 10 ships, but those guns are also very accurate, which makes up for it somewhat. At the same time, it is extremely maneuverable. You will be able to do lots of good torpedo beats in this thing. And you're also able to turn quickly to avoid incoming shots. One of the biggest complaints about this ship is its high citadel. So you have to be aware of that, and the firing angles also are not that great. There's been a lot of complaints about that too. So what you have to do is you just have to remember to keep your eyes open for any ship that could be taking aim at you when you're exposing your broadside, and zigzag a lot so they don't get that shot off. You are maneuverable enough that you can get away with this. Okay, so I've rambled enough for a while. Let's go back to turn radius. So the Monarch has 790 meters, which is the best out of the three. The Vanguard is the worst at 850, and the Lion is at 830. The 850 is a lot, but you honestly don't notice it because the ship turns so well otherwise, or at least I haven't noticed it. So finally, let's talk about the concealment. The Lion is the best at 11.5 kilometers. Then comes Vanguard at 12.0, and finally Monarch at 12.7, which is pretty decent for Tier 8 battleship. So that's pretty much the stats for the ship. I have enjoyed playing this game, especially when I'm not up-tiered into a Tier 10 game, which kind of happens a little bit more often than I would like. In Tier 10 games, it kind of struggles a little bit. You have those accurate guns, but they tend to bounce a little more often than you want them to, and you're constantly coming under fire by the enemy team. They see this brand new ship and they want to destroy it. So part of the frustration I've had ending up in a lot of Tier 10 games is perhaps due to the fact that the ship is still new. Once people calm down a little bit, it'll be a little bit easier to play. I do like how maneuverable the ship is. It's one of its big advantages. And again, I'll reiterate this. The major complaint that I have seen community contributors have about this ship is, one, it has a very high citadel, which if you look at it, it's just barely above the waterline. And two, it has terrible firing angles, so you need to expose your broadside in order to get those shots off. Well, if you're a terrible player and you just don't pay attention to how much broadside you're exposing to enemy fire, and you're not paying attention to who has fired when, yeah, you're going to get punished in this ship. But if you are paying attention, if you wait till the enemy fires and then execute your moves, you can do really well in this ship. It's fine. It's having a high citadel, yeah, is bad, but if you practice, if you're aware of your surroundings, you can work around that disadvantage. So in this battle here, I've already gotten 2 kills. It is one of the few Tier 8 games I've gotten. I've ended up mostly in Tier 10s when I've been practicing with this ship. But I wanted to show a battle where I do more than a lot of dodging from 7 different Yamatos at the same time. So I've already taken out 1 destroyer, I took out a cruiser as well, and our team is doing rather well. We just need to finish off the few enemies that are remaining. So there is a King George V defending their base, and we had, I think our last survivor up north was a Myoko, which got overwhelmed by the 2 enemy North Carolinas and the Xianyang. So now our base is completely exposed, and we don't have anyone very close to it, but their base is exposed except for the King George V, so we got to take him out fast if we're going to win this game. So our team is now, calling attention to the fact that our base is exposed. So I'm already heading in that direction because I realized that a while ago. And it looks like the rest of the team is heading towards the base, or the enemy base, I should say.
Concentrate fire on that enemy warship.
So one thing I should say for this ship in this battle, I have Burt Dunkirk as my captain. He's currently at 16 points. So I do have Expert Marksman, which is helping my turret traverse. I do have Adrenaline Rush, which is causing my reload to be a little bit faster. I do have Concealment. Let's see, our Icarus is about to go down, but so is the King George. Can I get the kill? No. Just before my shells land, he dies due to a fire. I've noticed in a lot of recent games that seems to be happening to me. I fire my shots, the ship is burning or is flooding or something, and just before my shells land, someone else takes it out. This is kind of replaced the other bad thing that's been happening to me recently, where I do like multiple citadels on an enemy ship, leaving him with less than 1,000 hit points left, and then someone else gets the kill. So, I mean, I'm not like angry at anyone for kill stealing, but it can get kind of frustrating after a while that you do so much and you come so close to killing it, but you can't quite finish the job. So now I have my teammates are now in the cap, so we definitely have a cap advantage at this point in terms of how much time is left. And okay, I spot the first enemy North Carolina approaching the base. So at this point I believe I decide to switch to HE, see if I can start a fire on this guy, but I'm not quite going to shoot yet because I want to make sure he gets a little bit closer so I can maybe get some more shells on target. And he goes silent again as I approach the cap. So now I'm detected, so that means the enemy DD has spotted me. Now I'm also kind of nervous because this North Carolina has far more health than I would prefer him to have. So I take shots out with my HE. I spot the other North Carolina, which has a little bit more than 50%, which is still more than I would prefer him to have. In a Vanguard going against 2 North Carolinas and a Xianyang, I'm not too happy about this. So what do I do here? I get ready to fire my guns and I'm turning hard to starboard. There's 2 reasons I'm doing this. One is because I know that deep water torpedoes are probably already on their way, and 2, I started turning right after the North Carolinas had fired their guns. Now you can see if he was a little bit more accurate and predictive of where I went, I could have been severely punished there. But the fact that I was turning hard and turning fast, I was luckily able to avoid getting citadel. So against a very experienced player, I might have been in a lot of trouble right there, but the fast speed of the ship's turn and the fact that it was unpredicted probably allowed me to get away with that turn. So if you time your turns right in this ship, the high rudder speed, the high rudder shift will allow you to get the heck out of there when you need to. Yep, and I was right about the deep water torpedoes. They just escaped behind me. So I just passed behind my stern, so that was a smart decision on my part. And just before I'm able to take a shot at the North Carolina, the game ends because we have captured their base. Still, I didn't do so bad with almost 167k damage, Confederate, first blood, and high caliber. So, should you buy the Vanguard? Well, that's really up to you, but if you like the Warspite, you like its style of play, then I think you're going to like the Vanguard too. It is I found it to be fun to play. It can be a little bit frustrating at Tier 10, but then almost any Tier 8 is frustrating when you get stuck in a Tier 10 game. So I hope you enjoyed this video, and thank you very much for watching.